I came home after 2 years away and found a brand new paved road sitting on my lake like it had always belonged there, which was funny. In the way a stranger wearing your bathrobe is funny, because it wasn't near my land. It was on it, 8 feet of fresh blacktop, a white center line, guardrails. The whole Audacity buffet. Now, I'm not talking about some little gravel path somebody accidentally pushed too far with a bulldozer. This was a real road, 0.8 miles across the northern shelf of Lake Voss, the stretch that floods every single February like clockwork, the way it has for 67 years. The way my father designed it to. And the best part, there was a sign, bright green, like it was proud of itself, Summit Ridge Private Road, authorized vehicles only, no trespassing. No trespassing, on my property, like the asphalt was lecturing me. I sat there in my car for a full minute with my hands on the wheel, staring at it, that cold Montana air fogging the windshield a little, and I remember thinking, okay, either I'm losing my mind, or someone else has. The drive-in had been the one I always took, Highway 200 out of Missoula, then the county road north that hugs the hillside above the water, that 2-mile stretch where the lake opens up under you like a postcard. It used to be my father's favorite view. He'd pull over every time, even when I was a kid, just to stand there and watch the water like it was teaching him something. So when I crested that familiar overlook and saw the shelf, I knew immediately something was wrong, not because the road looked out of place, but because it looked too confident, too finished, too permanent. I got out, zipped my jacket, walked down onto the shelf, and the closer I got, the more my irritation turned into this slow, hot disbelief. Proper drainage culverts every 100 feet, fresh paint, metal rails, professional grading. The kind of work you only do when you're sure nobody's going to stop you. I walked the full length of it, my boots crunching where the asphalt met rocky ground, the lake quiet beside me, and in my head I was doing what I've done my whole life, measuring, comparing, remembering. Because I know that shelf. I played there as a kid. I watched it disappear under spring water for decades. I watched the dark stains on the limestone mark the highest waterline every April, like nature keeping receipts. The road sat about 12 feet above the current level, which probably looked safe to whoever decided they were smarter than the lake, but I also knew what happens when 4 mountain rivers start dumping snowmelt into that basin, and I open the dam gates on schedule. The lake doesn't negotiate. It rises. So I pulled out my phone, opened the survey app I've had for years, the one tied straight into county GIS, and I zoomed in on that northern shelf until the boundary line was impossible to deny. The whole road, every inch of it, sat inside my property line like a trespasser with perfect posture. I took photos the way I've taken notes my entire career, systematic, boring, devastating. GPS stamps, date stamps, both ends of the road, the sign, the culverts, the guardrails, the rock face waterline markers. October 18th, 2024, evidence neatly packaged. Then I checked county records right there on my phone. No permits, no easement, no authorization, not even a pathetic little, oops, we forgot filing. I drove straight to the Summit Ridge Estates clubhouse, because if someone was going to build a road across my lake shelf, I figured they'd have the decency to look me in the eye while pretending it wasn't mine. The clubhouse was exactly what you'd expect. Timber frame, mountain views, glossy parking lot full of expensive vehicles, the kind of place that announces exclusivity like it's a personality. The receptionist pointed me to the HOA president's office. Brass letters on the door, Preston Calloway. Preston stood up when I walked in, tall, fit, silver hair styled like money, navy suit, gold cufflinks. He looked like he practiced confidence in the mirror. He smiled and extended his hand, like we were at a fundraiser instead of a crime scene. Mrs. Voss, is it please sit down? I didn't take the hand. I sat anyway because I wanted to watch his face when I said it. You built a road on my property. His smile didn't move. I'm sorry, what road? The one your sign calls a private road on the northern shelf. He leaned back, still smiling, but now it was the smile of a man who thinks he's about to win an argument against someone he's already decided is confused. Ma'am, I think there may be some misunderstanding. Our attorneys reviewed everything. We had it surveyed. That land is a county wetland buffer. And I could tell he was enjoying himself. He said, ma'am, the way people say sweetie, when they want to pat your head without touching you. So I told him calmly that my family has owned that land since 1947, that my father built the Voss Dam in 1958, that Lake Voss exists because he engineered it and paid for it and maintained it, that I have deeds, permits, surveys, tax records. And now, thanks to his little highway project, I also had photographic evidence of trespass. Preston's smile turned condescending, patient. With all due respect, older properties can be complicated. I think you may be misremembering the boundaries. And that was the moment I decided he was going to learn something the hard way. I said, I'm not misremembering. Then I added, because why not? I spent 30 years as a United States federal judge, the last 6 on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. He blinked, just once, just enough to show the words landed. Then he recovered, because men like Preston always recover. They think recovery is the same as being right. Judge Voss, okay. If you believe there's a dispute, have your attorney contact mine. I stood up, set my card on his desk, the one that still had my credentials on it, and said, You just made a very expensive mistake. On the way back to my car, I noticed something I hadn't clocked during my first walk. Small signs posted along the road at intervals. Easy to miss unless you're used to reading legal language in public spaces. Summit Ridge Road Maintenance District Monthly Assessment Active. And my stomach did that slow drop because now it wasn't just trespass. Now it smelled like money. That night, I called Nathan Chin, my former law clerk, one of the sharpest legal minds I've ever worked with, now at the EPA in Seattle. He answered like he always did, crisp and friendly, and when I described the road, the flood shelf, the lack of permits, the maintenance district signs, he got quiet in that way smart people get when they're assembling a puzzle in real time. Does the lake drain into any downstream navigable water system? Yes, Outlet Creek into the Clark Fork system. Nathan exhaled like he'd just been handed a gift. Then the Army Corps has jurisdiction. Unpermitted fill in a regulated water zone that's Clean Water Act territory. I told him I wasn't ready to light the match yet. I wanted documentation, I wanted the full scope, and in the meantime I was going to do exactly what I always do. Because here's what Preston didn't know. My father wrote a dam operation manual in 1962, and I've followed it like scripture ever since I inherited the property. Every February 15th, partial gate opening for ice management, increase flow by 40%, monitor downstream levels, routine maintenance, logged, documented, reported to the county like clockwork. I told Nathan, I'm not doing anything dramatic, I'm just following the schedule. He paused, then laughed softly. Judge, you are a deeply methodical woman. February 15th arrived cold and clean, that sharp Montana winter air that makes everything look carved. I went to the dam control house at 7 a.m., opened the logbook, wrote the same entry I've written for 6 years, called Sanders County Water Management to notify them, time, name, procedure. Expected duration. Then I turned the wheel 16 turns counterclockwise until the indicator hit the 40% mark. The spillways changed pitch immediately, a deeper rumble, more water pushing through, the outflow creek surging toward the Clark Fork. And that was it. No drama. No scheming. Just physics and paperwork. By February 19th, the lake was up 3 feet, and the shelf was turning dark and wet under the road like it always does. By February 20th, my phone rang, Deputy Marcus Webb, Sanders County Sheriff's Office. We've got vehicles stranded in water on a road by your property. Are you the owner out there? I'll be there in 15 minutes. When I arrived, it was chaos with a siren soundtrack. 2 cars stuck mid-road, water up to the door panels, firefighters hooking tow lines, deputies trying to keep the scene from turning into a shouting match. The road surface was submerged under about 18 inches where the shelf dips lowest, and standing at the far end, like a man who'd just discovered gravity, was Preston Calloway, in a heavy coat over business clothes, shoes clearly not meant for mud. He saw me and marched over, breathless, angry, pointing at the water like I'd personally poured it out of a bucket. What is going on? Who authorized flooding this road? Deputy Webb held up a hand. Sir, one moment. I'm speaking with the property owner. Preston stopped, looked at me, and you could actually watch recognition turn into accusation. You did this. I said, Good morning, Mr. Calloway. Then I turned to the deputy and calmly handed over my folder, deed, survey, dam permit, maintenance records, the county notification call log from February 15th. This shelf floods every February. I followed the standard schedule I've followed for years. I notified the county the way I always do. Preston's voice climbed. She planned this. She's using the dam as a weapon. Sir, the deputy cut in, sharper now. Lower your voice. We have an active rescue operation. And that's when the power dynamic shifted. Not because I raised mine, but because Preston couldn't keep his in check. He was trying to turn a routine flood into a personal vendetta, and the deputy wasn't buying it. Deputy Webb asked him, "Do you have permits for this road?" Preston hesitated, then tried to hide behind Attorney Fogg. "The permitting situation is being reviewed." Yes or no? He didn't have them. Of course he didn't. That flood did what arguments never do. It made the truth visible. By the next week, the county inspector confirmed it in writing. No grading permit, no road construction permit, no floodplain authorization, nothing. A formal notice of violation went out. Then the county did what it is legally required to do when an unpermitted structure affects water, referred it to the Army Corps. And once the Army Corps stepped in, the federal clock started ticking. Here's the thing people don't understand about the law. It's not always fast, but it is relentless when the paperwork is clean. And my paperwork was immaculate. Nathan made a few calls quietly, and suddenly the routine case moved like someone had shoved it downhill. The Army Corps flagged the culverts as improperly graded, channeling seasonal overflow into the substrate, causing subsurface erosion that was showing up downstream. The EPA opened a Clean Water Act investigation. A cease and desist hit the HOA and Preston personally. And Preston, because arrogance loves an audience, held a press conference insisting it was government overreach, like he could talk his way out of a statute. I thought that was the end of it, honestly. Road built illegally, road floods, agencies come in, HOA pays, road gets removed, karma done. But the twist was in those little maintenance district signs. Because while the road was underwater, the money trail floated up. 3 homeowners had already complained to the Montana AG's Consumer Protection Division, months before the flood, because they'd been paying $200 a month since January 2023 for road maintenance. And when they asked for accounting, Preston told them the financials were proprietary. Proprietary, that word is basically cologne for fraud. A homeowner group hired a forensic accountant, Patricia Drummond out of Missoula, 20 years of HOA fraud cases, and she did the math first. 180 homes, $200 a month, 24 months, $864,000. Then she opened the records. Road construction payments went to Callaway Construction LLC, formed 2 months before the fees started, owned by Preston Callaway. He awarded the contract to himself, paid himself $340,000 for a road that didn't belong on the land in the first place, then funneled the rest, about $524,000, through monthly legal consulting invoices to his own law practice. Brazen doesn't even cover it. This wasn't a sloppy mistake. This was a plan with letterhead. At that point, Nathan called the FBI field office in Missoula, because this wasn't just HOA drama anymore. Wire fraud lives in federal territory, and HOA fees move electronically like blood through veins. The Montana State Bar opened an interim review. The HOA board got blown up by its own residents in a meeting that, I'm told, felt like a volcano finally deciding to be honest. Preston's allies were removed. A new board took over. And Preston, Mr. Ma'am, you're confused, suddenly had a very complicated calendar. He tried to settle with me for $150,000, like he could buy his way out of principle. I didn't care about the money, but I cared about the admission, and I cared about the lake, and I cared about the families he'd been skimming for 2 years while selling them the fantasy of infrastructure. We settled for $600,000 with full cooperation requirements, and then, because the system had enough evidence to do what it was built to do, a federal grand jury indicted him. Wire fraud, embezzlement, false statements to a federal agency. His law license got suspended. His firm dissolved. The EPA assessed penalties. The Army Corps ordered full removal and restoration, every inch of asphalt, every culvert, every guardrail post, then revegetation, shoreline repair, the works. The HOA couldn't afford it. They went into receivership. A contractor came in and tore the road out like it was a bad idea made solid. I watched from the hillside with binoculars and coffee while flatbeds hauled away the last black slabs of arrogance. By late summer, the shelf was raw again, scarred but honest, and by fall, an ecological restoration crew started grading it back to its natural contour, planting native grasses and shrubs the way my father did decades ago. Preston pled guilty. For years in federal prison. Restitution to the homeowners. The lake, eventually, got its shoreline back. And that's the part that sticks with me. Not the press conferences, not the threats, not even the indictment. It's the lesson that arrived like a quiet slap near the end. You don't always have to fight a bully head-on. You just have to stop pretending the rules don't apply to them. People like Preston build their whole lives on the assumption that everyone else will look away, stay polite, get tired, doubt themselves, back down. He wasn't defeated by my anger. I barely raised my voice. He was defeated by his own paper trail, his own ego, his own decision to treat the law like a suggestion and other people's property like an opportunity. That winter, I sat on my porch watching snow fall onto Lake Voss, the northern shelf blanketed in white, quiet as a held breath. In spring it would flood again, because of course it would. But this time there would be no road under that water, just open land, the way it had been for 67 years, the way my father intended, the way nature always gets back to when you finally stop getting in its way. So here's the question that's been bugging me, and I want to hear what you think. When someone abuses power and breaks the rules, is it revenge to let the system and the natural order do what they were going to do anyway, or is that the purest form of justice? Drop your take in the comments. Tell me where you land on right versus wrong here, and if you've ever had a moment where you didn't have to swing the punch, you just stepped aside and let karma walk through the door.